Hello and welcome, everybody. We're going to start the webinar in about 2 minutes. We'll give folks a little bit of time to get into the call. So thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm Nate Joseph. I'm going to be the host today. I'm part of the 25 team, and we're here to talk to you about optimizing project pricing with 25 for professional services. So just to level set on a quick agenda for the call, we're going to walk through intros. We have a great panel discussion that we're planning to have with the group on the call today. And we're going to talk about how we've seen an evolution in pricing in professional services. And then if there's time at the end, we're going to do just a quick demo to give people an idea of what we're talking about from a software perspective. And then lastly, we'll follow up with a way to connect with us at the end. So jumping right into things, let's do a quick round of intros for the panel today. But I'm joined by a great panel of folks today. But we'll start with the top. Chuck, do you want to go and do an intro quick? And I'll go last.
Sure. My name's Chuck Lee. I'm Vice President of Pricing at Gainwell Technologies. I come from a long line of technology firms, primarily in both government sector like Lockheed Martin and IBM, and then spent some time at Accenture, and then in the services sector with Gainwell and DXC Technologies and CSC. So I've been around in the world of pricing.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. John?
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. John Wheeler, I'm Pricing Director here at KPMG. I have a varied background, having worked in consumer packaged goods, both on the consumer side and then the B2B side, before moving into professional services. Always with a revenue management background and then pricing strategy. So I've been a consumer of solutions as well as kind of an inputter into them.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Michael?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Michael Liss here. Part of the industry team at SAP, responsible for the professional services industry. I've actually been at SAP for about 22 years, and most of that time has been spent working with professional service customers. Most of the large global firms are running SAP today, and my team's job is to make sure our solutions are meeting the needs of this industry. And it's been exciting to work with 25.
Thank you, Michael. Magnus?
Yes, my name is Magnus Björndal. I am one of the co-founders of 25. So 25 started up about 7 years ago, so I've been part of that entire journey. Prior to 25, I worked many years in the SAP world. So I worked for SAP for 16 years. So I have a great appreciation for what SAP does and how much it serves its clients. And I also recognized at the time of SAP that partners play a really important role in helping customers, especially as we're moving into the cloud and people are expecting out-of-the-box solutions. So we identified this area of white space that we considered. And we're really keen to complement SAP and what SAP does to help create a better experience for the end customer. So,
awesome. Thanks, Magnus. And last, I'm Nate Joseph. Like I said, I'll be moderating the session today. I lead sales and partnerships for 25. I've been in the software industry for the last 9 years, predominantly in selling and strategy roles within go-to-market teams. Prior to 25, I was at SAP for 4 years, where I worked very closely with Michael and even Chuck when I was there, and now John. And I was responsible for what SAP calls their industry cloud strategy globally for the professional services industry. So I got to work with Magnus and the 25 team for 2 years prior to joining the company. So it's great to be here, and we're looking forward to diving into the topics today. So I think right out of the gate, is it fair, guys, to say that pricing is an area that's ripe for digital disruption? And I guess, how has pricing changed over the last few years or decade or so in professional services?
Well, I could take a crack at that. So I would say absolutely yes. I mean, the key to effective pricing is actually learning quick, right? And your ability to learn quick through technology is what will give you the edge, right? So I think anything that we can do or that can be done to help take the large amounts of data that usually come in the way that we price and can in the ability to make it, I'll say, to condense it and to make it consumable for analytics and things like that is actually what will turn you into a differentiator in the market when it comes to sort of your pricing.
Yeah, I think, Chuck, that's a great point. I think, you see different speeds of application of technology, depending on industry, based on the availability of data. I think you see, at one end of the spectrum, where those web-based kind of solutions like airlines, like hotels, where demand and supply signals are very much real time or have improved to real time, over the last 10 years. They're more advanced in that analytics and that kind of application. And then, consumer B2B world, and then the more opaque kind of businesses where data is less easy to get, are probably, later on that journey. But large economic kind of disruption, like we've seen, a lot of in recent times, fuel that kind of need to utilize data better, to make quicker decisions, to apply those things in a better way.
Yeah, and maybe one thought as well from my perspective is I always look at it in different areas of the business have different levels of maturity. And my feeling is that the area of pricing and estimating has been acceptable to be immature for too long. Like, it's been okay to build proposals in Excel, and that Excel sheet just lives and dies on someone's laptop after the deal's been closed. And I think one of the things why I feel like it's so ripe is that's just lost value right there, because there's so much value in that data, and it deserves to be treated more strategic. It should be in a database that people can access and can learn from and build continuous improvements around. So I think to some degree it's just this thing that it shouldn't be acceptable that it has that level of immaturity. That's why, to me, it's really ripe for digital disruption.
Yeah, and to just add to that, what we're seeing from an industry perspective is firms are offering a lot different new business models, and then being able to properly price for those different business models, is if it's time material, fixed price, outcome based, or subscription. You need a sophisticated tool that can help you really, drive your proposal correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just to add to that, actually, so when it is, because historically a lot of it was based on time and material, it was not as critical in some ways, right? Because you were off a few percent, it didn't really hurt your margins. But as you're moving to more subscription or outcome based or fixed price or all that, the risk is all in your court. So all of a sudden the cost of being wrong is a lot higher. So I think that's another real good reason.
Yeah, and I think you do need to look at, when we talk about maturity, you have to look at whether you're talking about a commodity-based element or you're talking about more of a solution-based element. And so I think you do need, the ability to have a tool that allows you to actually understand the true widgets, if you're like in a commodity, or actually the differentiation of the services, because when you're doing a solution, right? Because a lot of the pricing is going to be based on an understanding of the dimension of how well you feel you're differentiated from the other choices that a client may have. So I think when you can marry up what I'll say the financials and the cost to do something with sort of what you think the market demand is in differentiation will be sort of those two converging points.
It's a great point, Chuck. I think, can't lose sight in pricing of the value add, right? What is the value of your product rather than the cost? And I think Magnus, and Michael also touched on a key point. This pricing, when done well, is not a one and done. It's a living and breathing. Every day you get new data to kind of enhance and reflect a change or an update of your model. Now, that doesn't matter whether you've got brilliant data or less brilliant data. You're still getting more information to kind of make use of every day. And I think where I've seen it fall down is, oh, right, we've done pricing, so we can move on to the next project, and wait till the next kind of disruption or the next issue. It should live, it should breathe every day.
Yeah, pricing historically has been somewhat a matter of policy, not necessarily a matter of practice, right? It's like that's a gate you have to go through. And it was more or less to say, is this good for us? But it doesn't sort of lead us down, how do we go deal with the future, right? So I think it's, now we're trying to evolve into helping it drive more direction for where we want to end up, from a standpoint of the market and financials and stuff like that.
The other, I know we keep long on this question, but I find another thing that is very intriguing actually is this data that we're building up doesn't just serve the value of this individual pursuit, because there are questions like, if all the data, if we assume two scenarios, one scenario you have all this data in Excel, and the other scenario you have all this data in a tool, in a centralized tool, like you actually have visibility of not just your pipeline in terms of like how much revenue am I going to make. You actually have visibility of the resources it's going to take to deliver against that pipeline over the next year or horizon, whatever. And of course, that's like, as a professional services firm, that kind of serves as, what do I need to look at in terms of strategic hires and growth plans and all kinds of stuff. So I think this can bleed over to other areas, the value of this data that you're now collecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have all hit on some of the follow-up questions I was going to ask you, but one of them, I mean, you've talked about a few of the problems, but if you guys can just share a little bit more about what are some of the problems that your firms were seeing with using an Excel-based solution for pricing out proposals.
Yeah, I mean, having moved around, industries and companies, the one thing that over the last 10 years in particular that has continued to surprise me is how reliant people are on Excel. I think Excel has a place, right? It's very flexible. It allows you to kind of test something out quickly, but it then has kind of problems in terms of file size. You can't get that much data into it before it falls over. Or we've all made mistakes with formulas or not updated something and then got the wrong result, and finally, you find people save them onto their desktop, so it doesn't have the most up-to-date data. And so are you making the right decision with the best information that's the latest? I think, so it's got its place to get you going, but I think you got to kind of quickly morph into having set what your parameters of operation and how you want your strategy to look, then take it into something that's more dynamic and live.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Excel models are good, have its place, right? I mean, it's obviously, I'll say when you're dealing with something or it has to be very quick and you have to be able to turn on a dime, Excel is always what people are comfortable with because they're able to flip it and spin it around and modify very quickly. But with that comes a whole nother set of problems, because now everything becomes sort of a custom. It becomes, everything's a snowflake, so to speak, right? And then you have to go through a process to try and figure out how many snowflakes are similar, right? And so that, it's cool in that it allows you to react fast, but it allows you to react fast, and it doesn't. You have to go through a whole nother motion to have it be able to help you going forward, or to standardize, or to templatize, and do all that stuff that you can actually learn from. So I mean, that's the problem you've had, is that you haven't had a lot of tools out there that have given you the flexibility to move as fast as you need to, that Excel has. So when you get to a point where the tools can start to catch up with that flexibility, that's where I think you'll actually get the true benefit that we're all looking for when it comes to the intelligence side.
Yeah. And just to add to that, what we've seen is, when you do have these Excel-based models, the problem is, does it really connect to your billing engine, right? Because the true record is in your billing engine, and being able to use those bill rates, those cost rates, and make sure that they're accurately reflected in any Excel models. That's where all of this breaks down. And that's where we've seen this demand in this industry, is because, being able to use those rates in the billing engine are the most critical thing to make sure you're doing accurate proposals and bids for your clients.
Yeah. Man, you guys are answering all the next questions that are coming out. But no, I guess as a segue though, what benefits are you guys finding to using cloud-based tools for optimizing your project pricing? Like what are the benefits that have been brought to the table, or even future benefits that you guys are expecting to see from a standard tool?
Well, I think one thing that sits in the center of it that is always something that we're pressed for, and it's speed, right? So it's how do you get in front of a client and respond to a request and be able to do it quickly, organized, and get back in front of a client pretty quickly. So that's the piece that we, that everybody's looking for. How do I respond quickly? And I think, as we are moving into the tools, being able to standardize templates in a single tool to get to a solution that you can standardize, and then you just fill in the pieces, and that becomes an easy response to a client, is where I think, especially like with 25, that's one of those areas where when we can build templates in it, we eliminate sort of the from scratch piece of it all the time. So that helps us with some speed.
Yeah, I think there's speed, and it's also, how do you apply your aligned internal strategy consistently? I think when you can then template, and have a structure within a system that facilitates that kind of application being out there, I think you can be quick in many ways, but being quick and joined up to a strategy, which can change, right? You can change kind of your course, but doing that in a joined up fashion that flows through your organization and your organization's processes, seamlessly, is key. And that's where system solutions really play a huge part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So one of the things that, our vision in terms of 25, one thing that is really important for us to recognize is we know that Excel is our competition in some ways, in terms of ease of use and whatnot. And so we do need to make sure that it is as comfortable for users to maintain your proposals in 25. And obviously, we don't even aspire to be on par. We aspire to be better, right? So we want to be even better than doing it in Excel. So that's one piece. The other thing that's really critical for me is the speed of process, and making sure that when the process moves fast, the wheels don't come off. Right. So that means I want to be able to move through the process very quickly, but I might have a lot of controls in place that make sure that when the proposal gets to this stage, it has a certain threshold of value, certain threshold of margins. I need to trigger certain approval processes. So there's a lot of those things that we're following a business process here, where it's not just a document and a file and everything around that is just emails and meetings. We're following a process of how to go through from an opportunity to winning a project. And there are certain things there where I can define a process and run it as any accounting process or any supply chain process or any other process that you would have imagined running. This really should have the same feel to it, in the sense that I'm going through the stage, I'm setting it up, I'm getting input from various stakeholders, I'm reviewing it, I'm sending it for approvals, I'm getting it out the door, I'm winning the project, I'm losing the project, whatever. I'm moving it into SAP for execution. It should really be an integrated end-to-end business process. That's how I look at it.
But that is the big difference, right? So if you're mature enough to say, hey, look, I want to start building something and then be able to evolve it right into deliver and then repeat it, right? So it goes all the way supply chain up through deliver. I mean, that's a workflow, right? And like an ERP, it's centered around a workflow. And so you can build that out. Now, if you were doing it in Excel, yeah, great. You could go build a price, but then you have to go machinate to get it to fit into every workflow within each of the business. So you now have to go into that tool and break it up and say, okay, here's what I am going to do about demand. Oh, here's what I'm going to go do about procurement. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. So you have to go splinter off of that Excel sheet to sort of satisfy the needs of each one of those business processes, which in the long run probably takes a lot more time, and it's, sort of highly custom when you have to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of pain around that process for sure, and
Yeah.
and the integrity of it, like Michael, you said, in terms of making sure that I'm actually using the latest up-to-date rates, right? Where I'm like, when I price these kind of proposals, we want to use these kind of pricing strategies. Like and I would imagine, like you, Chuck, and Jonathan, the other way I think of it is that it gives you guys teeth in some way in the organization to say, not just like, here's an Excel sheet, please go use it. You can actually influence and drive, like to say, actually, any proposals of this kind of threshold, they need to go through an extra set of reviews and approvals. You can literally enforce that, whereas it's very hard to do if you don't have a process. So I think it will give you guys more leverage too.
I think it's all about what does the business and the leadership want, of a business want to see, and can you then apply that with the right checks and balances? I think what I loved about what Chuck said is it's giving you data, right? It's giving you visibility of data all the way through, because guess what? Things change, right? Things change from your initial plan through running, an activity to kind of the final. But if you're getting data in a joined up fashion rather than it's sitting in Excel version 1 versus 3 versus 5 on someone's desktop, you can't see how those things changed over time. Those changes are valuable to reapply to your ongoing strategy through that data, and then kind of, enhance the next activity that you do as a result.
Yeah, and for us, it's like, we've had a pricing organization that's centered around the most strategic top opportunities. So you would have the discipline on the big one-off, the big deals, but then you would lose the discipline on, I'll say, a lot of the transactions that go through the process. So you can easily get a ton of leakage because you're not involved. And so one of the things that we've done is we now have gone from an organization that was supporting those big deals only to mostly like 95% of every transaction comes through the channel. And we haven't had to change our capacity to deal with that, because what we've done is we've enabled the tool to allow those transactions. So we only need to look at what we need to look at as long as sort of the guidelines are in place, right? And the beauty of it is that all of it, that now we have all the data. Before we only had a portion of the data under a circumstance. Now we have all of it coming in, and for us to look at and for us to go say, okay, how does this transaction differ from these transactions, and do I have a different expectation depending on the transaction type, right? So that's where I'll say the ERP system enables that. It enables that to be more in your face than a project to go figure it out on the back end, right? So that's one of the benefits as you go down the track, but it's a maturity thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chuck. I think codifying the parameters that are important to your business and in systemizing that, that code is really an unlock for speed. Quick decisions. If you're hitting all of the right parameters, then if I take your meaning, very little approval checks needed because the system's doing it for you.
Right.
Yeah. So no, guys, this is awesome. And we've heard about some of the problems that you guys are facing with Excel, some of the benefits you're seeing from a cloud-based tool. But if I can ask Michael a question quickly, why did SAP ultimately adopt a partner strategy for project-based pricing, and how did they come to choose 25 as their main partner?
Great. Yes, Nate, great question. So as you can imagine, SAP was in a big hurry to move to the cloud. So about 6 years ago is when we've, started releasing our solution set to be cloud. And in that move to the cloud, we knew we couldn't build everything ourselves. So we adopted what we called industry cloud strategy, found partners that had, let's say, best of breed type of solutions, and brought them into our portfolio so that we can offer a complete end-to-end solution for our customers, but still be maintaining the core processes in SAP. And what's really interesting or compelling about 25 is their entire product was built within our SAP business technology platform. So we call it BTP, but the fact that it's baked into BTP means they're leveraging all our integrations, our APIs. With 25, it automatically generates projects within the S/4HANA solution, which means it's completely seamless. And for our customers, that's what they want. They want one solution that just flows end to end. So we've been really excited about the partnership, having great accounts like KPMG and Gainwell take advantage and derive so much value from this combination is what we thought was really important. And again, the proof is, the stories that they've been sharing as far as how they're getting so much value out of this combined solution. That's what makes it really compelling for our customers.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Michael. No, I appreciate that. So guys, one thing I want to close on, because I know we have probably 5 more minutes, and I want to give Magnus a chance to show off the tool. But let's talk about change for a second, right? Because with these cloud-based tools, comes a lot of change that you need to manage within your business. And we've already talked about the easy use of Excel spreadsheets. And when something's really easy to use and it becomes a habit, it's hard to break that habit. And so I look at Excel as more of a habit than even a tool that people just naturally go towards. So how have you guys been able to manage and drive change effectively in your respective organizations around 25, or even just pricing in general as a whole?
Well, I think for us, we've had experience building homegrown tools to do. I've sort of seen this evolution a lot. So I think what's critical is actually sort of having an idea of where you want to be, right? Because I think one struggle you get into is when you zigzag through this journey. That's when the change gets really hard. But I think us understanding sort of where we want to be is what's helping us transform. And I think you gotta actually also, I want to say you got to do it. You can't do it too fast. You got to make sure everybody's along the ride with you and can see the benefits as they're coming along. So we've built things, a lot of user adoption features within those are mistakes I've made in the past, right? Which people want to continue to see the way they've done it. You can't just flip the switch and they go, I'm in a whole new neighborhood now. So you have to sort of ease into it. And then once they get comfortable, it becomes way more natural and they look for similarities versus differences. And I think that's the way you gotta sort of go, you gotta go at it.
Totally agree, Chuck. I think, first of all, people have got to kind of see the challenge and therefore see the opportunity. And I'm a believer that people are smart. If you can represent the data that you've got today in a visual way, invariably people will see the problem. They may not know how to get to a better place, and that's where you can then help them, coach them. That's where experts, and experience comes into play. But then, to Chuck's point, at that point you then have to align on some key business decisions of change that everyone is going to hold hands on, because then you can build an application, you can build a solution, and the final piece is you have to keep the ultimate user in mind. That user interface, that kind of intuitive configured functionality, buzzwords, but you put yourself back into the real world of you're going onto a website to buy something. The sites that you like because they're easy, they make it simple. The sites that you won't go back to because you don't know where you're going. And that, if you keep that in mind, then you're on the right path.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add to that is, one thing that I find being on the other side, on 25 side, so to speak, is we are very, very, very keen to hear feedback from our clients and the end users, because we know that it is a continuous evolving, getting better over time, keep polishing the apple and making it shinier. So we're very committed to that, and we value our clients a lot in terms of getting value of our tool, but also getting feedback to us that we can keep making the tool better. And I think that's the other benefit over any Excel-based things, is like, you have now one company that has a sole purpose of doing your life better, and you can give feedback to us and we'll keep making it better and better and better. You don't have to invest in your own Excel-based tool and making that better. Like, you get all that off your shoulders, so to speak, and you can put it on our shoulders, and we'll be happy to kind of step up and do what's right.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Any last thoughts, guys? Otherwise, we'll wrap up the panel discussion. But this was great. Thank you all for joining as well. They're really insightful.
Okay, so I will I hope that we piqued your interest, to Lauren, to see a little bit of the tool if you haven't already. So I'm actually going to demonstrate, before I go into the tool, I wanted to share one slide. And that is to kind of put a frame around this. We've talked about it, obviously, in the panel discussion and whatnot, but just to kind of have an image in the back of your mind of, like, where does 25 fit in? And it doesn't have to be Salesforce, by the way, this could be any CRM, but we fit in between your CRM system and SAP. We help you kind of provide, I look at it as the glue between sales and delivery. So you have an opportunity in your CRM system. We take that opportunity and we can help scope what needs to be done in terms of work. We can help estimate the resources that are needed, including pulling the appropriate rates and history from SAP. We can help you price it, quote it. And if you do get awarded the contract, we can also help create the starting point in SAP for project execution. This is there's a lot more details underneath the hood, but if you want to have one visual kind of how and where 25 fits into the big picture, this is it. The other thing to be aware of is that 25 we're not standing still, we're moving forward, and our plans going forward includes not just being the upfront piece, but also helping you, because estimating and forecasting, quite honestly, is almost the same thing. It's just that you have actuals. So we envision also providing the continuous support for the journey going forward. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on this portion today for the demonstration. Okay, so let me jump into the tool, or actually, I'm going to jump into Salesforce, and I'm going to create some strategic consulting for Boeing. This is the example I'm going to use. I have to put in some mandatory information in Salesforce. I'm creating a brand new opportunity here from scratch. This is currently in the stage of proposal and pricing. I have some key information in terms of who is doing this work in my org structure. I have some estimated timeline of when I'm going to deliver this work. So let's say this project starts in March, and I think it will end, let's say, end of June. I can define some other key things in terms of the profit center and whatnot, and I can put in some comments about this project. and save it. So now create an opportunity. The next thing I can do, and this is also interesting, I can add, so what am I actually delivering to Boeing? So even as a service-based organization, and this is also something that I think both Gainwell and KPMG are doing, is you can have service-based offering, right? So in this case, they have established a service-based offering in this organization for doing some strategic consulting work. And when I do strategic consulting work, I know typically the type of resources, how I structure that and whatnot. So I have some more information about that. So I built up basically a service catalog of things that I typically deliver in the market. If you're an SAP consultancy, you might have greenfield SAP implementations versus upgrades versus whatever, but think of it as typical type of services that I'm delivering in the marketplace. And now I've done everything I need, and I can just literally send this over to 25. Got pushed into it. So now what I can do is directly from within Salesforce, I can navigate into the proposal that I created. And now we're just opening up basically from within the Salesforce opportunity. We can go straight into that brand new created opportunity that we did. So we can see I have a strategic consulting with Boeing, the period of performance, all being brought across, the project manager, who's the capability, the profit center, and all this stuff, and the comments. The interesting thing too was, remember I added that product. So adding that product actually did a few things. So we actually have a product in here as well, and that within that product we have associated a template. So the template got copied in automatically. So we brought in the strategic consulting opportunity here, but along with that, the template includes how we actually deliver strategic consulting. So he brought in a predefined project structure in terms of what does it take to deliver this piece of work. He brought in a schedule. Where I have, I can look at the overall schedule that I have in here. I can bring in other things. I can bring in team members and whatnot, or I can add them now on the fly. So I can add in Nate. And let's say Nate is going to be in this proposal. He's going to play the executive review role. And I can add in whatever, Richard. He can play a different role with contracts or something. So you can put in the various people that are involved in this engagement. I can have my overall predefined work breakdown structure in terms of how am I going to deliver this work. Now, this can still be changed. So this does not necessarily limit you to saying that this is how it has to be done. But what it does do, these templates, is it drives standardization and speed. As you saw, I pressed one button in Salesforce, and I've already created all this information. And not only did it create the structure, even created, and you'll see this in a minute, it even created a bunch of resources. So you can build a full-on resource plan. Like if you're delivering, S4 implementation work, I mean, when you do an S4 greenfield implementation, you're going to have a project manager, you're going to have a solution architect, you're going to have consultants, you're going to have QA people. Like, this stuff. So why not create templates for this that basically helps you with the starting point? So if I go in here now, you'll see that already this template brought in a bunch of resources for these work packages. I have a partner, I have a manager, associates, whatnot. I have those resources planned out over the period of performance for this project. I can make whatever change. This is where the Excel comes in. So this is the typical Excel-based view that you have, right? Where you plan your resources. But we already have pulled in resource. I can modify this. I want to make this a full-time resource. I want to change whatever this associates here. I want a different delivery organization. I want to deliver it out of India because I want to move this piece of work offshore. And I want to know for this guy, instead of starting on this day, I want it to just ramp up, go from 20 to 30 hours. So basically I can plan in this view. I can add new resources in, obviously, and I can copy things and whatnot. So very, very quick and easy way to plan resources out. I can add other resources in here. I can add in travel, whatever, travel expenses if I want. I can make those travel expenses based on a formula. So the travel expenses are calculated as sure that all that. Let's skip this one now. And I can also add in contingency and risk. So a lot of times we talked about new commercial models. If it's not just T&M, one of the things is, so how do I assess risk for a new opportunity? So in this case, the template came in with a predefined set of questions, like what's the relationship with this client? Is this a first time I'm working with these guys? So there's a higher risk. What's the complexity of the project? Well, I've done similar work before. What's the scope definition? Is the RFP well written? Do I know actually what I need to do, or is it pretty unclear? I can assess that kind of risk. What's my staffing situation look like? Do I already have known resources, or do I have a lot of gaps and whatnot? And that can help me derive in a consistent manner a nice way to calculate my overall contingency that I might need. And then I can go back and I can price this proposal. So, I take the resource plan, all the inputs and everything that I've changed in building my resource plan, and it will recalculate the whole proposal and basically what updates that I have made. We'll see we have some new numbers up here in terms of overall, and I can go in and I can price this. So the overall pricing, I can choose which kind of pricing strategy that I want to use. I can do fixed price, I can do T&M, I can do whatever. In this case, it's defined as fixed price, but with T&M rates. It means it takes all the bill rates, but then I can still adjust it. So I can add my contingency in, whatever, $10,000. I can give the customer a 2% discount and whatnot. And I can adjust my pricing strategy. I can price based on subscription or fixed price or benefits based or whatnot. And the other thing you'll notice here, this is another big key part, is when it created this proposal, it also determined which set of rates to use. So we can have more than one rate book. We can have, in this case, you can see it used the rate books for consulting for corporations. So Boeing belonged to a customer group for corporations, and the strategic consulting belonged to a service group for consulting. And I had defined specific set of rates for that market. So as I'm selling into 100 different markets as my organization, it can automatically determine the right rates. And this gives you a lot of power to control how do I price different services in different markets. So it's not just one Excel book with one set of rates. It gives Chuck and Jonathan ways to say, when I sell these kind of services in these kind of markets, these are the rates we should use. When I sell these kind of services to different kind of markets, choose different set of rates. Of course, you can still modify the rates in any given proposal. So you could still go back and I can look at my commercial view here. I can still say that, well, in the case of specific resources, maybe I want to say that, well, this partner, I'm going to make it non-billable. I'm going to give that away. And then this guy, I'm going to change the rate to 190, whatever. I can make and modify project-specific rates in this case. And these rates will even carry through to be sent into SAP. So when I put this project into SAP, it will automatically not only send across, it will also send across the exact set of rates to be used for the project when you start invoicing. So again, it builds up your plan. It builds out what your deliverables are. It helps you price those deliverables. It creates all the right rates. It pushes those rates to SAP to be used for invoicing. And in SAP, you can literally just go in and start executing the work. So we can send this into SAP as well. We can convert this. We just say send this all across to SAP. And basically, it will now send this entire project into SAP for execution. Obviously, there will be a lot of steps happening in before. You can create lots of versions and whatnot. I don't have time to show all that stuff, but this gives you the ability to basically go all the way from Salesforce. If we go back to this slide, it gives us the ability to very seamlessly, in a matter of just a few minutes, take an opportunity, scope it out, estimate it, price it, quote it, send it into SAP for execution. So instead of having hours and hours and hours of fiddling with Excel sheet back and forth and uploading whatever, it's a matter of minutes of moving this through an efficient process. And the other thing I'll mention is, I didn't talk about this yet, is we have the workflow process. So a lot of the things, if we go to this Do By tab here, we can define a well-defined process for what this needs to go through. And these workflow steps can be conditional. So it can be, you need to have an extra set of reviews if this proposal is below a certain threshold margin, for example, or if the overall price is above 1 million, or if the margin is less than 25% or whatever. Please send it, send it to Chuck's desk if it's too big or if the margins are not high enough. Chuck needs to take a look at it, right? And that's the kind of stuff that is really beneficial. So I think that gave a little bit of a sneak peek. The intention is not to show everything here. Hopefully we piqued your interest. And if you guys like to see more, then obviously we're super happy to get into more detailed demos. We typically spend a few hours demoing the tool. So
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Magnus. And just lastly, to conclude it, just in case you guys want to get in touch with any of us, feel free to take a screenshot of this and just reach out to any of us with any more questions or follow-ups that you may have. So thanks all for listening and for attending today. Again, any sort of follow-up, just email me or Magnus or any of the guys on the panel, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care, everyone.
Great.
thanks everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.